Yes, sir.
I love it.
Hey, Law, you know we had to do this, man.
Hey, for the newbies out there, man, if y'all never heard of Cowboys beat, man, come on, man.
Oh, man. You already know who this is over here. This is a legend in the circle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And remember, you're
You
listening
are listening.
to Nothing But the Bass.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Go,
This is
bro.
awesome. Hey, we got a lot to talk about, Law.
What'd you say?
I said we got a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah. We got tons of things to talk about, man.
We already got Dak and Filthy in here. Cry, you go cry. You love to see that.
In the words of Joy. We gonna talk about Dak. We gonna talk about everything, man.
Let's get this intro.
Wow. I love
Oh
it.
man, you know I had to do the Chris Jericho on that one, man. As soon as the countdown came on, I was just like, yo, you know what? Put that Chris Jericho music over that, and let's do like the whole countdown with the thing going on. But
Yeah.
yo, it is Law and Beat, February 28th, 2024. Law, how's it going, my guy?
Hey, man, it's going well over here, man. Off season, everybody's 0-0.
Hey man, ain't that the truth, bro?
Yeah.
Ain't that? And you want to know what's funny to me? You know, like all the NFC East teams kind of flamed out. So this is like honestly the most peaceful offseason I've had so far. Like, don't get it twisted. You're still gonna get your fights on Twitter with like
Right.
Lord Brunson and characters like that, but
Yeah.
it's been pretty peaceful so far. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's been pretty much peaceful, because everybody pretty much in shambles. The Washington team don't know what they really got. You know, they got Dan Quinn to sabotage, man. And then you got the Giants, for crying out loud. They really don't know what's going on with their quarterback. They don't have a running back right now. And then the Eagles, come on, man. They got Kellen Moore over there, man. So, hey, right now, if we kick off and start the season, at least we can have the ideology of Mike McCarthy, who's been pretty much dominating the NFC East, and as well as we have Mike Zim, who's pretty much, since he's been coaching, especially as a defensive coordinator, been in top 5 or top 10 defense. So we okay.
Oh no, 100%. And you want to know what's so funny to me? Like, you know, I'm hearing because I live in the Philadelphia area, so I'll listen to the radio stations, and they're like, "Man, Kellen Moore, he had all these top offenses in Dallas." And my question to all my friends that are like Eagles fans, I asked them, I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, so he had a top-ranked offense in Dallas. He leaves, and they're still the top-ranked offense."
Right. It's like, make that make sense, right?
You know, maybe there's something else there.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is at this point, because a lot of people, they gave all of the accolades. They gave all of the joy, the love, and adulations to, Kellen Moore. But then when he left, hey, like you said, everything still remained the same. Now, granted, how do you look at last year? As a disappointing season or kind of like semi-successful season? How do you look at it?
I definitely look at it as disappointing. So I'll give you like a little look from the past. So like last season when they lost to the 49ers,
Right.
I was big on, like this was a successful season because, they went further than the year before. Not only that, they lost a lot of key players on their team from that 21 season going into 22. You lost your quarterback for 5 games. You lost your left tackle. You ended up losing your right tackle. So the the fact that you were able to, go further in the playoffs than you did last year. I understand the opponent was a bit different, and
Right.
I get all those things. I looked at them losing to the 49ers in 2023 as, look, you just lost to a better football team.
Okay. Yeah.
There was no choking, no choking involved, any of that. Like, you lost to a better football team. This year, like, I'm not afraid to say that, they choked. And, I came out of that game and I truly felt like, yeah, this was disappointing, and I'm legitimately pissed off about this result. The 49ers game the previous year,
Right.
I wasn't. I was upset. I was like, damn, I thought we really could have done it. But I wasn't pissed off because I knew the 49ers were a better football team. The Packers this season, they weren't a better football team than Dallas.
Sure wasn't.
Leading up to that game, I'm like, look, there's a reason why Dallas has 12 wins. There's a reason why they were undefeated at home. There's a reason why the Packers were where they were. And boy, was I wrong, because they rolled up in our crib and they snatched our chain.
Yeah, they Debo'd our chain.
So I would definitely go in the area of it was definitely disappointing. I felt like they should have moved on from McCarthy, but thinking about it from maybe a clear mind, going into this year, I think Dak Prescott is going to have a monster season this upcoming season. It's year 2 in Mike McCarthy's offense.
Right.
And, offenses aren't something that you just roll out of the bed. Like, new offenses, you don't just roll out of the bed and you're automatically, right. an elite offense. But, credit to them, they were. And there's some things that they're going to fix with the offense this offseason. And, am I like drinking the Kool-Aid and saying we're going to the Super Bowl? Absolutely not at the current moment. But, I feel optimistic. There's some optimism in me. That's what I'll say.
No doubt. So, just briefly, you was talking about the fact that you was out on Mike McCarthy. If given a situation, who would you want it in if they were to move on from Mike McCarthy at the start of this year? Who would you want it as your head coach? Let me see how your mind was thinking on that aspect of it.
So I wanted Bill Belichick.
You wanted an old disciplinarian, a Territorian, a guy that's going to be with no nonsense over here. Oh, okay, I see you. I wouldn't mind that as well, but keep going.
Because I felt like, the problem with Bill Belichick post Brady was not that he was never a bad coach over these past few seasons. They just haven't had talent. And to be honest with you, a lot of that does have to do with him, but that's because he was the general manager as well. And, the way he constructed his teams it's kind of the way they're doing in Kansas City right now. Hey, build up your defense to run the football, ask your quarterback, your all-time great quarterback, to make plays in spots. But, once they moved on from an all-time great quarterback, and it's like, all right, you don't have a guy that's nearly on that class. The Patriot way kind of went away, Right. So I felt like the general manager, Bill Belichick, really did the coach Bill Belichick in. But the Patriots were a pretty decent defense this year, and they didn't have nearly as much talent as Dallas did. So I felt like, all right, him coming in, this defense is going to be a fundamentally sound defense, and a defense that I think can consistently have success over the course of the season into the playoffs, to the extent of, hey, he might not have gotten like a sexy name as offensive coordinator to where we're putting up an explosive offense, but at the same time, I felt like the defense would have been so damn good that it would have made up for, maybe some shortcomings from the offense if you didn't get, a more modern type of offensive coordinator.
That do make sense. So when you break that down, I wouldn't mind Bill Belichick over here, but Bill Belichick would have to have his Belichickian's way, and I don't think that Jerry nor John Stephen Jones would have been able to allow him to just move around in that space, right? Because he's such a guy that can walk in and just play 6 Super Bowl rings on the table and say, hey, I get it. I won all of these rings with Tom Brady, but you got to understand that this was a philosophy and a system that I had. And all of those Super Bowls that he absolutely won with Brady, they had a top 5 or a top 10 defense.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And other candidates that I was looking at, like if it wasn't going to be Brady, I was looking, or I'm sorry, not Brady, Belichick. I was looking more for like the young offensive mind, because I look at what Kyle Shanahan did with Brock Purdy this past season. Like, I want people to understand Brock Purdy as a quarterback talent is nowhere near Dak Prescott as a quarterback talent. They're not, like, I say this and people hate me for this take. I think there are 20 quarterbacks that I would rather have over Brock Purdy. Oh, wow. I'm dead serious when I say that, because I think if you stick a lot of quarterbacks in that offense and they're throwing the wide open guys and they have an effective run game with McCaffrey and all these guys, they're going to have success as well. So, but a lot of that does have to do with coaching, because Shanahan does a great job of, getting his guys, scheming his guys open and dialing up certain plays at certain moments. I know, the Super Bowl, coming off the Super Bowl, some people have a sour taste of Shanahan in their mouth, but So
with that being said, the title is how the Cowboys can improve over the offseason. And of course, the thumbnail says, how can, we get Dak better, basically in so many words. So what are your move to action for the Cowboys in general? How can we improve this team from your perspectives heading into the 2024 season?
So first off, the way to improve the team is to not get worse. I know that sounds like pretty basic when I say that, but what I mean is you want to make sure that you're not having guys that you want in the building leave the building, right? So that starts with re-signing your own guys. And I think, to me, the number one priority, it has to be Tyron Smith. I understand the injury concerns, but at the same time, if that guy can give me 13, 14 games of what he gave me this past season, no doubt about it. You live with the, with the downside of, of having Tyron Smith on your team, which is, he's going to miss some time. So I would definitely go that way. I think I would like to keep one of the cornerbacks, whether that be Gilmore or whether that be Lewis. I would like to keep one of the defensive ends, whether that's Armstrong or Fowler.
Okay.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't hate the idea of bringing back Pollard, depending on, one, his salary, and two, what is your draft strategy?
Oh, okay. So we all know I'm all with the younger. Probably you want to build them up and get them out there playing as much as possible. And I do understand that with Tyron, you're talking about bringing him back for another cup of coffee. The only way that I bring Tyron back is if he signed another one of those, you pay as you play, right? Deals. But I foresee the future for the Dallas Cowboys is such as just like this. Tyler Smith back at left tackle, elevate TJ as the left guard, and then you can probably go get an action Powers, as the center.
I love him.
Yeah. And Zach Martin, you're going to have to touch his contract because he's almost at the tail end of his contract. Play around with that, knowing that you got at least probably 2 to maybe 3 more years with Zach Martin. And then, of course, Terrence Steele. He will be the guy that we know for sure down the stretch played a little bit better than what he was playing at for the first few weeks. So now you have a younger offensive line, right? And I think that the growth of TJ Bass will be crazy good, him patched up and married up with Tyler Smith. And if you bring back Tyron Smith, it will be under the notion that, he's got that pay-as-you-play type of contract.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I actually do really like that idea of Tyron Smith and TJ Bass, because I think, granted, the Cowboys didn't do great with their 23 draft class. TJ Bass, though, absolutely. I think that he could be a starter in this league, no doubt about it.
Yeah. I will roll with that. And then Brock Hoffman, man, what you think about him altogether collectively?
if I'm going to be honest with you, if they do end up moving on from Tyler Biotic, I think it would be a wise idea to go sign a veteran center, just so like, hey, we have an idea to where we think we might go after Powers Johnson or Barton from Duke, but at the same time, like, we don't want to be at the mercy of the draft, right?
Right.
So I think that going that way would be the best way to go. So if, let's just say, for example, you get a guy that falls to you that, like, oh, this guy has no business being here.
Right.
Then you take that guy, because I always feel like the Cowboys do the best work in the draft when they're drafting the best player on their board.
BPA, yes, indeed. Oh my goodness! If we go with that mindset, then I'm quite sure Will McClay and all of those boys will be able to just get the best player out there. I was talking to someone who was really close with the drafting last year, and they said that basically, hey, can I just admit we got a little too ahead of ourselves, and they got a little too cute. And if you think of it, they didn't go BPA approach. They went with team needs. And now that we can see that with tangible evidence, it's better to just go with the best player available that's on the board instead of just drafting needs. And I'm quite sure that they probably circle back and go with BPA approach this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it, right? Like, we'll get into the draft a little bit later here. But, like, for example, like, I'll go back to last year and I'll die on the hill. Like, obviously it doesn't look good now, but at the time, I didn't hate the Schoonmaker pick only because, like, I saw potential in Jake Ferguson, but I understand how important the tight end position is to a guy like Dak Prescott. Right. So having an insurance policy there to where, okay, like, we saw some flashes from Ferguson and we think he might be really good. And obviously he turned out to be really good. Yeah. I also didn't mind them taking a guy that they liked at that position. I know a lot of people, kill me for that take, but look, I'll still stand.
Okay. So you standing on, you sitting 10 toes down on Luke Schoonmaker. You down for it, right?
So I'll tell you this.
Break it down.
If I had the information that I had right now,
right,
I wouldn't have taken Schoonmaker. But with the information that we had, like last draft, move on from Dalton Schultz, and with how well the Cowboys did out of their 12 and 13 personnel sets the previous year, I was like, okay, I don't mind it. And especially because he had a really good athletic profile. Do I believe in Schoonmaker going forward? I mean, he didn't really show me much his rookie season, and it is kind of a little bit of a warning sign that he's as old as he is. But, so I understand where they went with that pick.
Right.
Like, the fact that they're not getting any production from that 23 draft class, like, it's a big problem. And, like, if I'm Mike McCarthy, I'm stomping in that door and I'm saying, like, hey, you guys go by draft and develop. Well, guess what? We didn't have a good 23 draft. So to make up for that, to make up for the fact that we don't really feel great about any of these guys that we drafted the previous year, we have to probably look at free agency, to build this roster out. Because
you know what? A lot of people, man, it's like reverse hate with me because I'm so optimistic, right? And it takes 3 years to properly grade a draft, right? But hear me out, and I tell people all the time, put the butter knife down, don't shank me with it. But what if I told you, like, maybe Awesome Richard could be a guy that everybody look back at and say, damn, he's really good down the stretch. And then Overshawn gets back into the folds of everything, and they say, well, damn, he's pretty good. Think about our undrafted guys, T.J. Bass, Brandon Aubrey, those boys. They did pretty good. And I'm not finna leave my guys out in the woodshed because Mozzie, it's going to take him maybe 3 years, and I know that that's a long process to wait for that baby to develop. But think about this. There was another guy, Eric Scott. I mean, yeah. He showed us good promises, but he kind of fizzled out during the preseason game versus the Seattle Seahawks. But there was another guy that really showed us promise, and his name is John Stevens. if he didn't get hurt, then we would have been talking about Peyton Hendershot could have been gone, right? Or the other tight end could have been gone. Or John Stevens was projected to probably be even better than what we've seen out of a Luke Schoonmaker. It could be possibilities, but, I could be crazy because I'm just an optimistic guy,
Hey, look, I'll be honest with you. And I'm more so like down the middle when it comes to it, right? But,
Right.
I mean, John Stevens, there was some really promising reports about the guy coming out of camp. DeMarvion Overshone, I mean, he had a really good preseason there. And like, look, there are some guys that you look at and say, like, hey, maybe this guy can turn into something. My mindset is like, hey, if they turn into something, that's great. But we can't go into this season with the mindset of, oh, well, if we think that Mozzie Smith can develop, so we're not going to address that position.
True.
No. Address the position, and if Mozzie Smith develops, then the rich just get richer at that point.
True.
So no, I think a lot of what you said is true. It does take guys a little bit to develop here, and especially some of the positions that they drafted, like nose tackle and Mozzie Smith. They don't just translate from college to pro unless they're like a really, really like high level prospect.
Right.
Then there's a difference, right? And same thing with tight end, right? Like
True.
Tight ends take a little bit to develop. So yeah, I mean,
unless you're the kid that's over there in Lions Land. What was his name?
Oh man, Laporta.
Sam. Yeah, Sam Laporta. Yeah.
I remember I put like an Instagram story up, and I asked people if they were interested, like, hey, would you be cool with them drafting Laporta in the first round? Because that was the report on draft day.
True.
Over 90% of people said no. And I'm like, man, maybe they have an idea of what they're doing. Maybe they should have, maybe they should have drafted the guy. I mean, Ferguson ended up being a dude, and I love Ferguson, no doubt about it. But
Ferg is him. But there was a guy by the name Jim Law. He's on my page, and he was like, Law, Laporta the truth, bro. And he said it way before the draft and everything. And he's an Iowa guy, so he was like, hey, Law, Laporta is him, man. If he's there with the, I think we had the 26th pick, he said, hey, he wouldn't be mad at it. But, Laporta, he still went in the second round, didn't he?
Yeah, I think
so. Yeah.
I think that draft, it was Kincaid. I think he might have been the second tight end taken. I think he was taken before the guy we were looking at, Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. Yeah. I think he was drafted before him. And then I think it went Musgrave after Mayer. But
Musgraves and all
that was a
when the run of tight ends went, that would kind of, from the reports, they like, hey, we really need this tight end to step in. And that's when they went on ahead and got Schoonmaker, because all of the runs of the tight ends went off. Before we go two down the line, I just want to give a shout out to Sanjay. He did the $4.99 super chat, and he says Texans rolled out of the bed and had top offense. Stop making excuses. That major changes can be done in one season. Was it just a perfect storm for Bobby Slowick and those boys over there? Or do you think that, sometimes you can have a number one or a top offense because nobody know how to play you? Is that a situation there? Or the Texans, and they did have last place schedule too, not giving them excuses on why they was good last year. And C.J. Stroud, no one saw them coming. Could there be a combination of everything there?
Well, I want to first address this by saying I just looked up offensive points per game. Houston was ranked 13th behind Cleveland, Indianapolis, and New Orleans. So them being, considered to be a high-powered offense, it's not true.
Okay.
It's not true. That is a lie.
Yeah. Okay, good. Because sometimes people look at the results of playoffs and they think, why I think that's why all of us was kind of pissed off a little bit at Green Bay. They had the 24th or the 26th defense. But when they played us, they looked like the 2000 Ravens, man. I'm sitting there like, wait a minute, I wasn't expecting this type of defense.
And it's always like that with us. Like, I remember Christian Watson. People still think he's a good player to this day because of what he did to us. I haven't seen Christian Watson do anything since that game against us last November. And they still think he's a good player.
Yeah. It's something about, man, when they playing against the Cowboys. I remember way back, Sidney Rice back in the days, man, for the Minnesota Vikings in the playoff game. I'm sitting here like, man, he looked like Jerry Rice, man. Yeah, I mean, Brett Favre just closing his eyes and throwing it, and he was just catching everything and anything. So sometimes players just gear up to play us, bro.
Bro, I now know it's like people go into our games with a different demeanor after the fact that Kadarius Toney looked like an all-pro person. You remember that first game? Toney, we couldn't stop him for anything. He had like 250 yards on us. Hasn't done anything since
then, man. He looked so good in that game. I said, I want him. You know,
I'm like, bro, he might be the best receiver out of this draft, and then he ended up being what he was, and I was just like, oh man, because I rolled up to Eagles fans. I'm like, yo, I don't know, man. That dude from New York might be better than your guy. And I every single time I roll up to one of the people that I start debating football, every single time I'm like, all right, don't pull that card out. Don't pull that card out.
It's just sometimes, you know, I'm not bagging the Cowboys. It's just sometimes the way and the how we lose. Like week 3, there's nobody on this planet outside of my guy 100 grand who called in. He said, "Law, we finna get blown out, dog. We finna get beat real bad." And I said, "For real? Against the Arizona Cardinals? Ain't no way." And he like, "Law, trust me, man." And I'm sitting here like, man, he Cleo 100 grand us because we got the doors blown off of us. In no way possible. I thought that they would come in here with the guy, I forgot his name, the quarterback. Josh Dobbs, man. I started calling him Joshua Dobbs. They beat the brakes off of us. They were running on us, And we the only team that lose like that, man. Like weirdly, like, come on, man.
And what's crazy is like when I was watching film on the Cardinals, I was like, I don't know, man. This might be a little bit of this might be harder than I think because they're doing all
you were saying the same thing.
And all this, you know, and Arizona always gives the Cowboys problems.
True.
You know, so by the way, 2 other people that probably predicted that game are Philly 500 and Lord Brunson probably predicted a blowout for that game as well. But no, man, I swear it's like whenever teams go and play the Cowboys, and this has always been the case, man, they eat their Wheaties. They're in bed by, what did Patrick Beverly say when he played against Steph Curry? He's like, man, I'm in bed by 8 o'clock. He's like, I'm telling my girl, I'm going to sleep early. He's like, but when we play against Chris Paul, man, I'm out at the club till 11 o'clock. We're like the Steph Curry, not really, but we kind of are from that perspective.
Yeah, we get everybody A game, man. And those were the devastating losses. The Arizona, of course, you know, I would say that first Eagles game that we lost to last year. And then, of course, the Bills and the playoff game. Those games right there, I get it, you know, what the 49ers were able to do to us to a degree because we were playing too close and tight to our vest. But those games right there, you're like, God dog, man. It's the weirdest way to lose games is those 3 games right there.
Oh, man. So one thing that I want to talk about, because obviously this isn't just big in the Cowboys community. It's big nationally. Dak Prescott's contract, what do you think happens with that?
All right. So here's the conundrum, right? The fan base is split, right? There's a lot of people that support Dak Prescott. Then there's a lot of people who can't stand Dak Prescott. But the way to help this team out ultimately would be not to do a 2-year or a 3-year extension because of the cap hits on that, is to do a longer extension, like a 4 is at the minimum, but I'm looking at more like a 5 or 6-year extension. And that way you can do the voidable years again. You can spread the cap hits out or what have you, and you can go into this year and add more and more pieces to the table to go for that run. But I think that what's a hindrance now is that the no trade clause and the no franchise tag clause and all of that. So now you're in that middle place. Do you take the hit of $60 million on the chin, or do you spread this thing out and extend him, right? And then add more pieces to Dak Prescott.
Yeah, no, I'm on board with you. I'd be all for 6 years, whatever he's asking for. I think now they're talking about with the new, with all that money that's getting added to the cap,
right.
Potentially around $62.5 million per year.
Oh, is APY 62 now? Potentially.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying all right, if we can get him for 6 years at that price, Jalen Hurts, I think got paid $51 million a year.
True.
Right. So in a year, what was the highest paid contract a year ago? $51 million.
Yeah.
It's now up by $11 million. So that's the thing. The cap's going to keep going up. And with the NFL expanding all over the world, the revenue is going to keep coming in and the cap's going to keep going up and up and up. So, look, I'm fine with paying him 6 years, whatever it is, $60 million per.
Yeah. But when you say that, man, I can see somebody right now. I can't stand Cowboys beat no law.
Well, I'm gonna. Well, we're, you know what I'm saying? We're adults. We've negotiated things before. If I got all the leverage in the world, right?
Right.
I'm gonna get every penny out of the person that I'm negotiating with, right?
Right.
And this is on the Jones, because back in 2019 they could have signed Dak, and they could have gotten him for a Carson Wentz type of deal, to where you're looking at a guy who's making around $30 million right now. Yeah. But the Cowboys decided, you know what, our quarterback, he's got to prove it. He's got to go out there and prove it. We're okay with, and I don't know how true this is, but somebody was saying that, they didn't think that the cap was going to go up as much as it did. So they were like, all right, well, what's the difference between paying him this much and then waiting a year or two? But what they didn't, I don't know if they took into account all the terms and all the conditions that Dak put in the contract to add even more leverage than he already had. And it's I'm hearing people say, take a pay cut, and you have to, we understand this. This is, agents that are involved with this. And an agent isn't going to tell his quarterback, hey, take a pay cut, because, then he looks like, he doesn't look like one of those top agents from that standpoint, right? Where it's they want a headline to read, shout out to Boss Cowboy, he said this. They want that headline to read highest paid quarterback in the NFL, or highest paid player in the NFL. Right. Dak Prescott at this price, so that they can look good to potential clients. You know, so it's more than just Dak saying, hey, let's, give him back $5 million a year, even though with that $5 million, you're going to get a backup quarterback with that.
Yeah. Because the way the agent look at it, as if, every player's a Ryan Shazier hit away. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. And I'm not using it as a joke, but they looking at for the future. And just like anything in life, and especially as an analyst, you're going to forecast for the future. You're not forecasting for today. You're looking down the line. And if the Cowboys said that they didn't expect the market to jump that high, that's shame on them. Because anything that you do in life, fellas, I'm telling y'all right now, if y'all dating a lady and you got 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and it's been 3 or 4 years, and you going to the wedding, one of her homegirls' wedding, right? And she fool around and catch that bouquet, hey, either you going to get on that one knee, or she going to dog you for that whole year and say, hey, when we get married, I want that type of wedding. I want that type of ring. And that is the exact same thing with these players. If Dak Prescott and Todd France ran a circle around the Jones family the first time, they're going to look to do it again, because these are the things right here. The Jones family have to show that they are willing to go in before other players. Like they had the opportunity to pay Dak Prescott before Carson Wentz, before Jared Goff. They had the opportunity to jump in on the front end, but by them withholding, then now Todd France is going to compare analysis, right? And then he's going to put side by side and Dak Prescott at the end of the day. If you put up Dak Prescott numbers from 2016 to present day, far as win to loss ratio, I believe that there's some weird stat that there's only a Pat Mahomes with more wins than him, right? So now you're looking at wins, and now you're talking about numbers. If you're talking about Stat King, because you get paid by your numbers, they're going to put those things up, and playoff numbers don't determine how much money you get, and winning the Super Bowl don't determine how much money you get. If that's the case, then just going to the Super Bowl, Jimmy Garoppolo would have broke the bank. Oh, and on top of that, the other quarterbacks that went ultimately to the Super Bowl to lose would have absolutely broke the bank. So, or even playoff wins. Jimmy Garoppolo in the last 5 or 10 years got more playoff wins than Aaron Rodgers. So all of those things got to come into play. And the Dallas Cowboys waited too long. And now you have the same thing. Jalen Hurts just got paid, right? Burrows got paid. All of those boys got paid. And the only way the Cowboys could have got in on that contract if they would have jumped in earlier, before Jalen Hurts got paid and before Burrows and whoever else, I think his name, who don't have a playoff win. Oh, he played for the Chargers. What's his name? Can y'all tell me? Oh, Justin Herbert. Yeah, you have to get in before them boys. So now you are at that state. Yesterday's price is not today's price, and now the price is XL because you got $30 million added to the salary cap. And the Todd Francis of the world saying, hey, as my client, you know what I'm saying? Hey, I got to pay him, and I got to look out for the future family. And Dak Prescott added an extra addition to his family, and I'm thinking future. I'm not thinking for today, and pay my client. That's how he looking at it.
Hey, man, look. If my soundboard wanted to work, I would have given you, you know what I'm saying? Let me see if this thing works. I'm trying to see. Damn.
Yeah, they wrote me off. I ain't right back though.
Can you hear it?
That's the problem. Right
there we
back.
go. There we go.
Yeah, let's go.
I was gonna give you. Hold up. Here we go. You know what it is, Raw. Yes, sir.
Yeah, let's go.
I love that. You know, here's the thing. I talk about it all the time, right? The Cowboys are a one-dimensional football team. Just they go as their offense goes, and you know. They didn't really run the ball particularly well this past season. They are a passing attack. They are led by what they do over the air, right?
Facts.
There's a lot of people who want to move on from the quarterback. I'm like, wait, but they're a one-dimensional offense,
right? And
you want to take away the most important part of the one thing that you do really well. I
like that.
It doesn't make sense to me because, you know, the defense – when teams wanted to run the ball, I'll give the defense credit because they played very well against the Lions, who were an incredible rushing attack this year.
Right.
You know, but when teams really wanted to lean on the Cowboys, they had success doing that. And this isn't even just like it kind of got masked up in like certain games. One game that comes to mind is the Panthers game, right? The Panthers did kind of whatever they wanted to on the ground.
Exactly.
But it got masked up by the fact that the defense or the offense started to turn up, make some plays, and put points on the board. But when the offense puts points on the board, again, one-dimensional offense,
right?
Then what happens is now the strength of their defense gets unlocked because we all know what they do well on defense is rush the passer. So now you're complimenting your defense by, hey, cool. Go rush the passer, do your thing. That's what you do best. Go get turnovers. And they're a team that, like, look, Aaron Jones said it when he was hyping up, you know, his team before the game. They were front runners this year. I mean, I got to call a spade a spade. It just was what it was, you know, but a lot of that had to do with the play of the quarterback because, you know, he would put points on the board and the defense would be able to be at their best because of it.
Yeah. So, man, boy, you right. Ooh. Because I never looked at it from a fold, right? A man prevents and prevail against a one fold by himself, but a two shall withstand him, right? And then also, therefore, a threefold is not quickly broken, right? So when we start, and that's Ecclesiastic 4 and 12, by the way, y'all. So y'all look up Ecclesiastics. I would say this, though. If you really think of it, we were a one-fold on offense this past season, and we were a one-fold on defense. And the thing is, the one-fold was we had great dynamics in pass rushing. Terrible dynamics on stopping the run. And then we had great dynamics on the offensive side, like you mentioned, on passing the ball, but we were just sus and just barely making it on the run. Now, we can play the blame game, right? Just like my guy Sanjay said, well, hey, Bobby Slowick came in 1 year and was able to do all of those things. But I would say this. We had a change of offensive line coach, Mike Solari. We had a change of running back coach, Jeff Blasco. And then we had newness to my guy Tony Pollard coming off of an injury. And his first time ever with that particular load of work. So it's crazy. So I believe if we can go into this offseason and solidify the run game with a veteran running back, go into the draft, still draft another running back because we know who Deuce Vaughn is. He was a glitz and grammar type of pick, and I'm not beating up Deuce Vaughn, but he can't play special teams, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be your option maybe down the stretch, and he had to grow into his role here. But that's just the bottom line with that. But if we go into this offseason and solidify the running approach and being able to get bigger bodies inside to stop the run, I think that we'll be even better team than what we were in the past.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. And one thing when it comes to winning games in the playoffs and why I think the Cowboys recently have had some struggles doing that is because the style of play that the Cowboys play isn't necessarily, it's something that can translate into the playoffs, right?
Right.
Like rarely do you see, high flying, high scoring playoff games. Like you don't
right.
Like, does it happen? Obviously it does, but it's, there's a reason why the Titans got to the AFC Championship with Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback, right? It's because they ran the ball effectively. Yeah. And that's something that translates into the postseason. It does. if I'm Dallas and Mike McCarthy, if you improve on the run scheme, because I don't think they necessarily did a great job with how they ran the football.
Right.
And if you get better personnel, right? Like if the Cowboys can go one of two ways. If they want to bring back Tony Pollard, I don't mind that idea whatsoever. I really don't. Like, I think that Tony Pollard.
Hold on. As long as the price is right, though.
As long as the price is right, absolutely.
Come on down.
But if you do go get Tony Pollard, you're gonna have to get a guy that complements him, right? So
Facts.
Hey, we can go get. We re-signed Tony Pollard. Now let's go in the draft and draft Audric Estime from Notre Dame and draft, a Braylon Allen from Wisconsin.
Come on now.
Along those lines, and then at that point you can now complement, your running back room. You have a complementary backfield.
You do. So, you will have a complementary backfield. And what I don't want people to do is to think just because we were able to run at some time in some games, right, that we were able to run. Like you said, with that fold, we were one fold, meaning that teams didn't fear to run. They would say, okay, if the Cowboys beat us by the run, then so be it, right? But if the Cowboys beat us by the air and they get up by multiple scores, then that's going to trickle down to the defense. What we need to do is ultimately stop the run, force this quarterback to throw into strange areas and see what he can do. And if the quarterback is not on rhythm with the wide receivers and they fool around have a 3-and-out or 3-and-out, there's more and more time of the defense being on the field. There's more and more times that the defense can't pin their ears back. And now you're winning from multiple levels. People fail to realize football is chess, not checkers. But if you can bring that element of fear back to the game on the run, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would help us out.
And there's so many options. I mean, like when you go into this, when you look at free agency, I mean, it's the best running back class that I've ever seen. I mean, it really is. You know, and I think in the draft, there's not like a definitive running back one. Like I love Jonathan Brooks. If Jonathan Brooks didn't tear his ACL, he to me would be running back one. But there's kind of guys that you shuffle around and you're like, all right, this guy can be good, that guy can be good, you know. But I think there are really good complementary backs in this draft. And
you already know what's about to happen then.
Oh yeah.
I believe we got the 56th pick in the second round or something like that. The Cowboys select Jonathan Brooks. The Dallas Cowboys doctors done looked at Jonathan. But hey, I won't be mad at it because I've seen that someone was talking about Chubbs might get cut.
Oh, Chubb from Cleveland.
Cleveland might get cut.
Wow.
But these projections from Spot Rack or Sports Track, you know, Sports Rack.
Sports Track. I think
Sports Track. Yeah. The possibilities of somebody moving on from him is crazy, right? But there was in the past running backs who was hurt in college, and then all of a sudden they got to the pros or what have you. They continued their success. Do you know any of them at the top of your head?
I know Adrian Peterson off the top of my head.
He was hurt before he made it to the pros?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. He got hurt when he was in the pros.
What was that, Willis McGahee? Well, one of those guys.
It's a good question. Was
it Chubb himself?
Did Chubb get injured?
Before he got drafted? Was it him? Y'all help us out in the chat. Yeah. And I would say this. The only reason why I'm saying this is because Cowboys in the second round tend to take their injured guys or their high-risk guys, like my guy Voch Lombardi would say, gun under the seat guy, right? they tend to do those things, ladies and gentlemen. That's just what I'm saying. If you look at the track record, Bruce Carter, Sean Lee, Jalen Smith, Randy Gregory, Kelvin Joseph, the name in the list, Sam Williams had off-the-field issues for crying out loud. Yeah. So it was a lot of people, man, that got hurt or what have you, and they come back. Yeah. Chubb, Noel says Chubb destroyed his knee in Georgia, and hey, that draft pick worked for the Cleveland Browns, I believe. Peterson, he also was hurt in Oklahoma before he was drafted. So yeah, and McGahee, somebody threw out McGahee. So yeah, that could be. Look, that Jonathan Brooks tape, man, it ain't nothing to sneeze at, bro.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, oh man, Jonathan, I mean, he could be like Aaron Jones on the next level. I mean, I really think that. I mean, he's got a good frame. I think he's around like 6 feet tall. He's long. Yeah. He can help you out. I haven't really dug deep into his tape. Right. I kind of watched him in passing. I really like the way he runs the football. I think he can also be a threat for you when it comes to a receiver as well. And to me, like I'm always, that's why I like Tony Pollard a lot, because I think that he has a part of his game that I don't think the Cowboys really took advantage of. Like in college, he was like a slot receiver in college. So the way I look at it, I'm big on running backs catching passes and being a part of the receiving game. I just think you get more out of them like that. And if you can get a guy like that, maybe that's not the type of guy that McCarthy wants, but if you can get a guy like
McCarthy looking like, hey, I'm in a lame duck season, man. You ain't gonna give me people that I can win with now. Come on. Hey, why you gonna do this to me? But I got two other super chats that I want to give a shout out to. Robert Howard, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. He says, Beat, you are so right. That is why Jerry Jones said that we will go as far as Dak takes us, but Dak haters took the quote in a negative way. Do you want to expound on that one?
Yeah, no, I mean, but I think kind of the problem with the team construction is that that's the mindset of we go as far as Dak takes us.
Right.
way that the team should be building their team is we go as far as the team takes us, as both the offense, the defense, and the special teams takes us, and I think they need to tweak that philosophy and say, hey, we go with Dak as our leader, not because of Dak. And don't get it twisted. You'll win a lot of games like that because, look, I don't care what anybody says. Dak is a really, really damn good quarterback. Like he is, so you're going to win a lot of games with the roster that they have. And is it like a complete, football team? It's not. They do have some holes, but I think Dak makes up for some of the holes that they have on this team.
Right. I know people, I get flack for it all the time when I say Roger Staubach had Tony Dorsett and he had Doomsday, and of course Roger was Roger Staubach, he was the Captain Comeback, Captain American, and all of that good stuff, but he had a complete team. Troy, he had the 90s offensive line. He had Emmett. Of course, nobody got more rushing yards and touchdowns as it relates to Emmett. And then he had the playmaker, and put the cherry on the top, he had Jimmy Johnson, right? So when you start thinking about Dak Prescott in a prism by himself, right? We can't start naming other players outside of maybe 2016, 17 Zeke, but they toured around with Zeke, especially on the field or off the field. He missed 6 games for crying out loud. And 2018 Zeke. But we didn't really had another guy on the opposite side that can really be transcending. And on top of that, that defense is nowhere close to the 90s defense nor Doomsday, right? So we can contextualize all of that. And I would say this, if they are smart, they would stop trying to say, well, Dak Prescott, just because we paid you now, through osmosis, all of a sudden, holistic approach that you're going to become better, right? And help aid all of the woes, and you'll be the only reason why we win. When you look at other teams, they put more and more pieces that can make things shake for them. And it's just what it is, bro. I just don't think that if push comes to shove, that I'm going to close my eyes and say, okay, 4 will be able to get us over the hump on defense and as well as run game inefficiencies. I don't think, I like Dak Prescott, but I don't think that he got that capability to do it just by himself.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, people get caught up in, we want a guy like Mahomes. We want, that's the type of guy we want. Okay. Right. Kansas City going to trade him to you?
No,
there is one person like that in the history of the sport. The odds of you getting a guy like that are very low. Like even with a guy like Joe Burrow, #1 overall pick, all the accolades, we get it. Right. When they got to the Super Bowl, they didn't get there because of their offense. They got there because their defense played really damn well. And to counter that point, the Bills with Josh Allen goes crazy in the playoffs. Yeah. Josh Allen, I understand he gets a lot of slack because of the turnovers, and I get it. I understand it. That dude is a tremendous playoff performer, and he hasn't gotten to the heights that Mahomes has gotten to because of how poorly, let's just say, the defense played around him, because, there were some games where the defense was just flat out bad, and that's the reason why they lost the game. Like your quarterback, Dak could have put up 400 yards against the Packers. Oh wait, he did.
Still lost. Yeah,
he did, and they still lost because the defense was just bad that game. Like it takes a full team effort. That's why teams win Super Bowls, right? That's why when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl this year, it wasn't just Patrick Mahomes holding up the trophy. It was the coach. It was the running back. It was Travis Kelce. It was all these guys. One thing that the national media does, because the national media, really shifts the way people look at the game, and their way of thinking is, oh well, the quarterback gets paid a bunch of money. He should, But one, if a front office looks at it like that, that's an excuse for bad drafting. True. Like if you look at, hey, quarterback, we paid you a bunch of money. Go win us a bunch of games.
Yeah, you're going to do it.
Yeah. That's an excuse for bad team building around him. Like, that's just lazy. And you know, a lot of people believe that, like, oh, you pay the quarterback, he should be able to make up for the mistakes on the team, and he should guide you to the promised land. I hate to tell you this. There are better quarterbacks that have better teams around them.
Right.
You know, so like I put Dak, I have him in that, you know, he teeters between that top 4 to top 7-ish range for me.
Right.
But there's still guys that are better than him, right?
True.
You know, some guys that are better than him have better teams around them. So you have the opposing team has the better quarterback and the better team around them. Like, you're probably not going to win that game.
Facts, man, or scheme and these sorts of things. I got another super chat from Sanjay. Shout out to you, second time around. He says, not keeping Pollard is like getting rid of Amari Cooper 2.0 again. You want to add to the running game, not take pieces away from it. And he says the hashtag insanity. Before you go in with a rebuttal, I just say this. I absolutely see nothing wrong with Tony Pollard. I like Tony Pollard just better as a split back. To me, he's your Nightwing. He's your Robin. He's your Luigi. He needs another star-studded player with him. And I'm not saying that he can be like a Christian McCaffrey. No way, no how. I'm just going to say this right quick, is that even with Christian McCaffrey, when he went to the 49ers, they put him on a low management role, right? They also added scheme to him, and they also added this situation where Deebo Samuels was in the backfield at times, and then when those two boys couldn't get going, then they had Elijah Mitchell, Kyle Juszczyk. They had multiple weapons added to with him. So if I'm looking at this free agency, and if you bring back Tony Pollard, for one, you're not going to give him $10 million again, right? And you got to make sure that, hey, with what we're trying to bring to the table, if you're going to be part of the fold, because running backs are a dying breed, right? What we're going to give you is anywhere in the workshops of 4 to maybe 6 million being the highest, right? Or you can take this 2 to 3 year deal to make everything work for us. But we still got to give you another person. Maybe that could be draft again. But I'm looking at it like this. You go get that other veteran to match up with Tony Pollard, not just Tony Pollard by himself.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And one thing that I would say back is, you know, I think Saquon Barkley is a better player than Tony Pollard. So if you replace Tony Pollard with Saquon Barkley, like, yeah, ultimately you are getting rid of Tony Pollard, but you're getting a better player in here.
Yeah. Teams fear Saquon, you know. Keep going.
Yeah. You know, and that's kind of the thing. Like, you hit it spot on the head. He's a split back. He is a number 2 guy, which is completely fine.
Right.
You know, or he doesn't even have to be like, maybe he's a 1A, 1B type of guy.
Right.
But ultimately, they need to address the position. And when there's reports coming out saying that they're going to go with a more cost-conservative approach, I would still hope that, you know, they decide to go and again, I'm fine with re-signing Tony Pollard, but they got to go add another guy, whether that's, you know, we talked about at the draft. I love this Estime kid from Notre Dame. I really do. I think
I'm gonna look up more of his tape. What about that kid from Michigan? Do you like him, or are you out on Michigan players?
Blake Corum, I'm not out on Michigan guys.
Right.
I think, you know, from what I watch from Blake Corum, you know, him and Tony Pollard to me isn't necessarily the backfield that I would look for, just because I think they're kind of the same players. And not only that, when it comes to Blake Corum, one thing that scares me is he had a lot of carries at Michigan. So, you know, that's something that does scare me. If they want to take a guy like that in the 3rd round, you're getting a guy who, you know, is he going to make it all through 4 years of the contract with effective play? I'm not sure of that. You know, I would go other directions when it comes to that. Like, you know, so yeah, the guys that I'd look for the most, Allen from Wisconsin, I think he's like 6'2", 240 pounds. He's only 20 years old. And I think he was in a split backfield as well with in Wisconsin. So I would have to look up how many carries he has. But, you know, like, stuff like that is important to me. Like, if you're drafting a running back, because, you know, Zeke was probably in his prime at Ohio State. Like, and he was great in the NFL. Don't get it twisted.
Hell yeah.
Like,
Shoot, 16, Zeke. I just think that the NFL sullied us, man, in 17 with him, But he showed us some good promises in 18 because he was our number one receiving. I think he had the most receptions in 18, and he had the most yards. I think he finished topped off at third or fourth in the national.
I mean, Dak's always had great receivers around him, man. He's always had great receivers around him.
Wait a minute. We had an aging Dez Bryant, man, and we had a situation and scenario that we wanted wide receiver by committee in 18, and then when that fell to his face, we started 3-5 that year.
Yeah,
they pulled the trigger on Amari Cooper. Yeah, I give it what you're saying though.
And so somebody said in the chat, talked about Bucky Irving from Oregon.
Okay, break him down. Break him down.
A bad brother right here, man. Kind of like Tony, like younger Tony Pollard, home run threat at all times, can catch out of the backfield. Smaller frame, not maybe not the best pass protector, but when I look at a guy like him, again, what I talked about earlier when it came to the draft. More of a complimentary back, but I'm completely fine with that. I would definitely, if he's around in that third round range, I'm completely fine drafting him there because.
But you said small frame though. You kind of got me worried. I'm sweating over here now.
No, like I'm talking about like 5'10" ish range, like 5'9" ish range. I'm not talking about like Deuce Vaughn small. I'm talking about like more. Yeah, it's somewhere
like an Emmitt Smith, Barry Sander-ish.
Like more like younger Tony Pollard before he got like swole. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
I think Tony Pollard's a little taller than him, but that's the way I look at him. Again, home run threat, quick, shifty.
Mm-hmm.
All those great things that come along with smaller, quicker running backs, and I would love to see them use him on like screens and stuff like that because I really think that, he's a guy that at any point.
Gerald says Bucky is 5'10", 190.
5'10", 190. Yep. Around that area. So, you got to understand the back that you're getting when you draft him. Okay. But, if you ask him to play the role that he's best suited for, which is, be that number 2 guy, be that, change of pace type of guy, him and Tony Pollard in a backfield together. Me personally, I wouldn't prefer that. If they go and get Derrick Henry, I would love if they went and got this guy because he does kind of remind me of Tajay Spears from what came out of Tulane last year, plays for the Titans.
What about A-Chain? Is he kind of like shifty like him too?
Kind of like A-Chain as well too. Yeah, I think A-Chain's a little faster than him, but A-Chain's also, he might be the fastest running back in football.
Man, they had the Florida relays over there, bro. I mean, God, dog, Miami was running everywhere. Hey, Sanjay in the house again, man, with another super chat, man. Sanjay, I appreciate you. He said this notion that any running back can help a team is a big fucking lie, a fudging lie. Excuse me. Pardon my French. I'm working on it. All the teams in the playoff either had a number 1 running back or a running back with a tandem or with a vet. So what's your thoughts on that? My bad. My guy, he got me with that one. My hooked on funny guy. I'm like, wait a minute. But keep going.
All the running backs either had a round 1 or no doubt about it. And one thing that so back when the running backs were, having trouble getting paid, one thing that I looked into was, all right, let's go over the rushing leaders over the past 5 years. And in like the past 5 seasons before this one, I haven't really looked into it yet. A majority of the guys in that top upper echelon were like first round, second round, like top of the second round pick guys, so if you want a difference maker at that position, you're probably going to have to draft one in some of the earlier rounds. I mean, that goes for any position, but this notion that, you can just find anybody and you can just draft this guy in, the middle rounds and he'll be a starting running back for you. Like, I don't.
It's crazy because two things that people try to think that it's easy to do, bro. is to draft a Pat Mahomes and also draft the Pacheco.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
and both two opposite ends of the spectrum. One is like, hey, Pat Mahomes, that people had Mitch Trubisky better than him, right? And then on the other end, you had a guy that was the later end of the rounds, what have you, Pacheco.
Seventh round, yeah.
Yeah, 7 rounds. So it's hard to find those things.
And to be honest with you, two things I don't think enough people bring to that discussion. When it comes to Isaiah Pacheco, like I don't know where I'd rank him. I can probably name 5 running backs that without a doubt I think are better than him. True. But I also think that he does benefit from the fact that he doesn't have to go up against stack boxes playing with Patrick Mahomes. Yes. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
he doesn't have,
but he do make them pay though. When it's a light box, he makes them pay. And then that's one of the things that I was looking at it like teams play so much of a light box. There was a stat line. I think you either posted or someone posted it. I think Brandon Laurie on Twitter, he posted this, is that the Packers rushed only 4 and was still able to capitalize with pressure on the Cowboys with just only 4, and they was able to stop the run and get pressure with 4. Like, dude, that's crazy. It's 5 offensive linemen.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's bad. If a team can be that effective in their front with only 4 guys, that's a bad. And that's kind of goes back to our point with the run game, right? Like, if you're the Cowboys and you have a Derrick Henry,
okay,
and they're playing the way that they played against you, you run the football all day on those guys,
Right.
It kind of does go back to not only do you have to add, again, I'm cool with keeping Power because I still think he can play. I just don't think the scheme was that good this year. Like when it came to running the football, and hopefully things change. If I'm Mike, honestly, I go and watch, Doug Peterson. I go watch Mike McDaniel. I go watch Ben Johnson and these guys. I'm going through like some quarterbacks film right now, and I'm watching Trevor Lawrence. Right. Andy Reid is Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson is such a good play caller. He started it was shotgun. Started Travis Etienne to the left side of Lawrence, motioned him like he's going out for a swing pass. Whole defense shifted to that side. Then he cuts back and takes a handoff.
Right.
And then weeks later, they start doing they ran
played off
like a similar look, and instead of handing it off, it was a play action. So like I'm looking at play callers like that, and I'm like, dude, there's things that some of these play callers do where it's just like, all right, these guys are just on a completely different level.
Yeah. My guy, Cowboys J UGA the third says Law checkout Thurlow Wilkins, running back from Concord as a Pollard replacement, 6', 205, speed demon. Have you heard of him? Thurlow.
Nah, I didn't hear about him.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on with Mike McCarthy. I wanted us to go grab some guys that can help him and help him out with an assistance. And I thought of like Airbnb just as a guy that can be play caller assistant, offensive coordinator assistant, not saying that he have to call plays, but whatever role or capacity that he was doing over there with Andy Reid, because the Super Bowl that they won, the first one, they talked about how Airbnb dialed up a play that they looked at in 1934. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, okay, cool. He's a historian. He knows how to find plays and help Andy Reid out, et cetera, right? So I was thinking that Mike McCarthy needed the same thing. But they didn't go with Airbnb. They went with the Walmart version of a Steve Simcoe. You know what I'm saying? And he could be better, though, And Steve Simcoe, he took Boston College. I don't know if anybody followed Boston College or anybody know of a Zay Flower when he was there. But he took that offense from averaging about 280 to 285 yards per game to 380. So I think that Steve Simcoe would be a guy that can just be an advisory installment guy to be more of a youthful mind in the building. Maybe he can sprinkle some of the stuff that you was talking about, what the Jaguars were doing, or what even Bobby Slowick is doing, etc. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, like when it comes to Eric Bieniemy, even like the Commanders ran the football. Like when they wanted to run the football, it was like, damn, they're pretty damn good at this. I don't know why they don't do this more often. So I would love to add a guy that could, bring in some new ideas into the room. I would really like that, because man, like I think that they left some things on the table when it came to those first 5 games where it's like, I don't know, man, like if you beat the Cardinals, and maybe you win one of these other games, like maybe you're looking at a potential first seed, and you don't have to play, because I think, going into that game in the playoffs, I was in a space with Knicks, and I was saying to the people in there, because they wanted the Rams to beat the 49ers so we didn't have to play them. And I was like, I don't know. I think the Rams are actually a better matchup for us than Green Bay is. And people talked me out of that. And, where I was really scared of Green Bay was the fact that they run the football. Like, and they don't, like, they go
stubborn running with us,
stubborn running the football. Absolutely. No doubt about it. And, like when it comes to what you said about adding like a new guy in there to have some fresh ideas, no doubt about it. Like I'm definitely for that.
Yeah. Just get my guy, CeeDee Lamb in motion, put him in the backfield, use motion. Jalen Mills did a great piece. He jumped on 105.3 The Fan, and he was talking about just the nuances of just motion. It just makes it a difficult situation for defenses to read. And we will give teams some motion some game, but then we'll ultimately stop it, right? And like in that Green Bay game, we stopped motion. So if CD lined up on that left side, he was on that left side. If my guy Brandon Cooks was out there inside the slot and going to run a simple drag route, he stood there. It was no motion. It was no eye-catching moment. And we had a guy that averaged about 8.5 yards or something like that per run. His name Kevontae Turpin. If the offense is still like old bags of chips left open in the car in the back seat for weeks, then you put him out there. Let's just at least get a positive play going so that it can calm down the offense a little bit and get things moving.
Yeah, you got to have, those tendency breakers in there, like no doubt about it. And I'm big on use motion during run plays as well. Like I'm huge on that, because, obviously every situation is different, but if you can motion, let's just say a slot receiver, and now the linebacker's thinking like, all right, I gotta pay attention over here. Now, like, all right, when you run the football, he can't just get downhill immediately, or all right, we get him out of place. That's just enough for this offensive lineman to get him in position to be able to block him, So there's motion. It's really important in the NFL today. And it didn't surprise me one bit that when the Cowboys offense struggled a lot this past season, like in some of those, because I thought that they were consistently good offense, but they had some games where it was just like, hey, dude, what the hell was that? They didn't use motion in some of those games, and especially early in the season, I think they were like bottom of the league in motion or something like that, something along those lines.
Yeah. Beats, man. I can tell you this, man. If you look up how many points we scored in the third quarter, it'd probably be less than 10 for the whole season.
Really?
From the offensive perspective, we were so dry coming out of halftime, bro. I'm sitting here like, come on, man. And then we would do things like in the 49ers game. To this day, I told my brother, he's a diehard 49ers fan. He's still crying somewhere. And I told him that they didn't have no answer to Kevontae Turpin taking the top off the defense, and he was killing them, and they scored a touchdown off of it. And to never go back to that play again was baffling to me. It's like, okay, you see it working, let's do it. But the Minnesota Vikings, when they played the Niners, they saw something working. They went and consistently attacked. attack it. And they had weak spots on that side of the field, and the Cowboys would do something. Someone lamented that in the chat. They would do something and never go back to it consistently. It's just crazy.
You know what's like so aggravating about the team is that like everybody in the league, every player, every coach, every executive in the league knows that Dallas is really damn talented. Right. But they're just like, yeah, they're a predictable football team. Right. And what really pisses me off is that you'll have guys around the league like Kaiser White, like a journeyman player talking crazy to Dak. And I'm just like, he can only do that because there's something restricting us from getting to that next level. And I really don't think it's talent. I don't. And I want to touch on this because it just popped back into my head. When it comes to the linebacker position, because obviously that's something that the Cowboys need to address, is it me or this past season, what really, really pissed me off was that, they have all the defensive ends in the world. They have DeMarcus Lawrence. They have Dorrance Armstrong. They have Dante Fowler. They have Sam Williams. Yeah. And they just, like, the thought of Micah playing more as an off-ball linebacker, like, I wonder if it ever crossed their mind because, like, Stephen Jones talked about it earlier. Like, oh, well, we'll have to see what Mock wants to do with Micah. If he wants to play him more as an off-ball linebacker, we'll have to see. It's like, all right, so Stephen Jones is, like, going with the flow of things when it comes to the defensive coordinator putting him in a spot, or so he says. Like, this past season, there was no excuse for them to not play him more as a linebacker. And I know there's people out there.
It's like fighting words, man.
Oh, man. There's people out there that are like, no, he has to rush the passer every single time that there's a pass rush down. I'm like, I get that. I get it. But, like, would it hurt to play him more as a linebacker? Because a take that I stand on, and my brother Okoye agrees with me on this.
Oh, yeah.
He has gotten worse every season. Like, his best season was his rookie year. Season.
Yeah.
His rookie year, I looked at him like, yeah, this dude is different, man. Like, this is the best defensive player in football. I don't care how many years he's played in the league. I don't care. He is the best defensive player in football. Yeah. And now I look at him and I'm just like, I don't know. As a defensive end, I think there's two guys that I think are better as defensive ends than him.
Micah Parsons suffered from the kids getting the ice cream when they want it, right? And I'm not beating up Micah Parsons, but that's just what it is. He suffered from Dan Quinn not challenging him and not telling him, okay, I get it. I want you to play and make plays, but what would be beneficial to the team collectively, on your off day, you are 1,000 times better than a Marquise Bell, 1,000 times better than a Damone Clark, right? We all know that, right? You are scouted as one of the top tier linebackers in the National Football League. We spent and burnt a second round draft pick for Sam Williams. And I'm not saying that Sam Williams could have gotten 13 sacks or whatever Micah Parsons ended up with this year. But whatever Micah Parsons did in that Green Bay Packers game, trust and believe Sam Williams could have done it. Dorrance Armstrong could have done it. Fowler could have done those small things. But what these boys did, Marquise Bell and Damone Clark, they couldn't have done what my guy Parsons would have been able to do. So what I hope, and what we all hope, is this right here that can happen. When Mike Zim goes into the picture, he does this.
Get your ass up there, contain the damn ball. Too many missed tackles. Let's go. We're too damn soft. I just hate mistakes. I hate mistakes.
So that's the only thing. Now, granted, I'm already conditioned my mind that Micah Parsons is going to play the edge. Mm-hmm. He's going to play the edge, and I want to go into this offseason and into the draft and draft us a true middle of the field linebacker. That's all he do is look at linebacker tape. All he want to do is be the next Ray Lewis. All he want to do is be the next Patrick Willis. All he want to do is be the next Junior Seau, or Ken Norton. I just want me a true. Linebacker. He is not inspired to do anything else but to play linebacker. Whoever we can find that guy, I don't care if it's the Michigan linebacker. I don't care if it's Adrian Cooper. I don't care if it's Tupac and Biggie. You bring in that linebacker. That's all he do, man.
You know, this is something. This is a play that me and Okoye talked about. I'm gonna try and get it up here.
Okay.
And it's Micah playing off-ball linebacker, and like, granted, he does get, he gets taken to the ground, but at the same time, he occupies two guys, like right here. Hold up, let me see. Right here, right, playing the middle of the field.
Yeah.
And 65 and 74 take him out of the, like, they gotta both of those guys.
Yeah.
They have to use to take him out of the play. Same thing with DeMarcus Lawrence, right? You see DeMarcus Lawrence here. They use two guys, damn near three guys, takes out of the play. And you see Damone Clark running free as a bird.
Yeah.
Free as a bird to him and Sam Williams, but Damone Clark especially. Like, I think if Micah Parsons plays more at linebacker, he's going to elevate the guys around him playing that position, because like when he gets downhill,
right.
I mean, he's hard to block. I mean, there was a play in that game where a guard tried to block him. He slipped it and, ended up getting to the running back.
Man, you said a mouthful there, because, we hear Dan Quinn, he's talking now, and I think John Machota got a cut up over it, and I was going to talk about it. But he was basically saying in so many words that when Parsons got a chance to play that edge, it opened his mind up to new dimensions, right? And he said it also motivated him to be more creative. But what we noticed that as Micah Parsons continued to play on that edge, less and less of the creativity that even Dan Quinn brought to the table. It's not that we don't like Parsons playing at edge, because he is a specialized weapon. He's generational talented, but it's the fact that I truly believe that in this last season with Dan Quinn here, he became a little too comfortable and didn't get as much as creative as he was year one with Parsons and semi-year two with Parsons, and he got comfortable enough to just keep him on the edge. And that's why Parsons spoke out and said, and this is just me being fair to him, and he said that there were packages out there, but the man upstairs, Dan Quinn, didn't call him, right? So I mean, he's not going to override Dan Quinn in his third year and say, hey, put me in that spot, right? So that's just how it goes. And if the Cowboys saw everything, how we see it, what the Cowboys did in that Green Bay Packers game is and I'm not trying to beat up an old dead horse, y'all, is that what they did was they brought the exact same game plan they had against the Buffalo Bills.
Yep. I think it was, what did Rex Ryan say? It was 48 out of the 54 snaps they played with 6 defensive backs.
Right. They brought the same plan.
I get that now the league is so heavy when it comes to throwing the football.
Right.
You're going to see more dime and nickel personnel. Like, it's just, that's what's going to happen. But dude, the fact that you were playing that many defensive backs for that, that amount of snaps, and they still did whatever they wanted to over the air is very concerning. It's not as concerning now because Dan Quinn's not here. Yeah. And I do think that, the defense will be a more fundamentally sound defense with Mike Zimmer than it has been in years past, because with the Cowboys defense, like, the highs were very high with their defense, but the lows were low. And, I want to find more of a middle ground to where, hey, we're, forget the obviously we want turnovers, but
true.
Hey, forget just being a defense that thrives on turnovers. We want to play fundamentally sound defense, and we want to win games like that, and have the turnovers be the Jimmy's on the ice cream type of thing.
Yeah. Get us a little meat in there, man. You can't survive off milk alone. And when the baby, when it just focus in on the milk, it is good nutrition, but you got to get over to the meat. And the Cowboys just never moved over to the meat, and that's what happened to us, if I can make any analogy to it. But go ahead, bro.
So one thing I want to go over is like, so obviously the draft is coming up. That's a really big topic.
Right.
When it comes to the first round pick, I think the Cowboys they're going to be able to pick up a really good player in this draft, because I think that a lot of I think there could be 4 quarterbacks taken before the Cowboys pick. Actually, I anticipate 4 quarterbacks being taken there. Hopefully you get a run on cornerback, because, I think the Cowboys are pretty set at cornerback here. So the 2 positions that I want to see off the board early are quarterback and cornerback. I hope teams decide to take those guys. And then it kind of pushes down some guys to us to where, all right, to me, if a receiver's available at 24, like a Brian Thomas, a Keon Coleman, man, I'd have a hard time if I'm in that scouting room, and obviously I'm not, but if I were there, I'd have a hard time passing up on a receiver, because, you see all across the league, these offenses like Philadelphia with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Kirk Cousins played great football this year when he was healthy, and they drafted Jordan Addison in the first round last year. You had Jefferson and Addison. You got T. Higgins and Jamar Chase.
And they willing to pay him $22 million for a franchise tag.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you got Jamar Chase. Who think about that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, like, I kind of look at that and I say, all right, maybe adding another receiver here would be a smart idea, depending on who's on the board, right? Like, if Jackson Powers Johnson is on the board, to me, no brainer. You got to take him because he's just that good of a player, but if he's off the board by then, like, I like Graham Barton, but at the same time, I don't like Graham Barton nearly as much as I like Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. led the country in touchdowns this past season. He played alongside a guy that is getting comparisons to CeeDee Lamb and Malik Neighbors. Right. So, that style of player works with the type of style of receiver that he is. I think that that's going to fit like a glove. And you look at Brian Thomas, long speed, explosive player, makes plays down the field. I think that that's a guy we need in this offense, in my personal opinion. But I'd be okay with Keon Coleman as well. I think they underutilized him at Florida State.
Yeah. When you think of that, you're talking about premium positions that you can get immediate results year 1, year 2. Any other positions you probably have to develop into, like a quarterback, for example, defensive tackles, and to a degree tight ends, unless it's that kid from Georgia. If he's there, then you have to really be sweating too at that point. But I would say this, though, the Cowboys with the 24th pick, if it is a wide receiver, just know that you have 5 years with that guy. And like what my guy said in the chat, Rico Jones, BPA, best player available. And only way that if you know for sure that you got like 4 or 5 guys that tags are touching, and you can find that fool, because there's always a fool in the draft that's willing to move up to that 24th spot, and you can collect an extra draft pick in the 2nd or extra draft pick in the 3rd, and you slide back just a little bit, I would do that. Only to a degree. If tags are touching on multiple guys with your BPA philosophy, and you know that you're missing out on a pick with the 4th round pick, which is your golden pick, by the way. So you can slide back just a little bit, but don't slide out of the 1st round. Because here's how I view the 1st round. You still got that right for 5 years, the 5th year option. Even if Michael Parsons want to bark and moan about, playing or what have you, we still hold his rights for 5 years, because of that option. So that's why it's such a valuable spot to maintain a 1st round draft pick. But if you see somebody that your tags are touching, slide back to the 26th or the 27th pick and still get your guy and scoop up an extra draft pick, or a swap in the 2nd to go back in and get a Trevondae Sweat. Can you imagine we get Powers and Sweat
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my God, that's our
yeah.
interior. I'm building from the interior or the inside out. You know, I can go find another wide receiver somewhere.
Hey, yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt about it. But man, I just think about that number 2 guy with CeeDee Lamb, and especially because, like we talked about earlier, they're, to me, they're a one-dimensional offense until they're not, right? Like until they prove to me that they can be more efficient running the football, then to me, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, like, obviously address that aspect of your offense. Like, obviously draft a running back in the draft, make sure that you sign a guy. And, obviously the offensive line's always a priority, but like, man, like if I can add, like some people in the chat are talking about Troy Franklin from Oregon, really like him as well. Leggett from South Carolina, very high upside guy. I'm for all that. I really am. And, is it like, do we need a receiver? No, we don't need a receiver.
No. We look. It's a. All right, who's our true number 2 wide receiver right now?
Yeah, true. No, it's a fair point. Yeah,
we got one number 1, true number 1, and that's CeeDee Lamb. And I mean, there's no shade at Tolbert, no shade at Brandon Cooks, no shade at Gallup, and all of those boys. Everybody's like number 3. Everybody outside of CeeDee Lamb, you got 1s, and then you got like 3, 4 3s on your teams. We don't even have a true number 2 wide receiver, in my opinion, by the way.
Yeah, no, I agree. And man, like, look, I don't like Cooks as a number 2 wide receiver. I really like him as a number 3 wide receiver if you have a legit number 2 playing alongside him. Because, then at that point, like if you go get, let's just say a Keon Coleman, a guy who can primarily play on the outside, then, hey, forget what Twitter's talking about. Like, I do not care what Twitter's talking about. If you want to play CeeDee Lamb in the slot 85% of the time, and he gets you 1,700 yards, I ain't complaining about that. I'm really not. Like, I'm really not.
Yeah. Let me mention these guys that's at center right now that's in the free agent world. Of course, Jason Kelsey, I think he retired, right? So he's out of the picture.
He might be coming back.
He might be coming back. I hope he do. Then the Eagles pay all that money for him to come back. Go ahead, Eagles.
Oh, I hope he doesn't. I don't want to. I hate dealing with that guy, man.
Yeah. But he is still good. But you got Cody Whitehair. You got Connor Williams, who was a project over here, and I think he found his groove at a home at being a center. He's not going to be that powerful guy to knock you off. But one thing I can tell you about Connor Williams, if we ever have to go up against Aaron Donald, we can know for sure he's straight. You got Mason Cole. Have you heard of him? He's from Pittsburgh. Mason Cole. He's a center. Andre James.
Not too familiar with him.
Aaron Brewer. So I'm looking at all of these lists of centers that's a free agent that you can bring in that can give you better work or better production than what we had out of a Tyler Biadasz, and then you don't have to worry about drafting one. If you go and do that before the draft, that will be the way.
You mean Tyler Badass?
Badass.
I didn't know where that came from, and then I heard him say that, Stephen Jones, and I'm like, dude, no way. Mason Cole was
He's terrible numbers.
I'm looking at PFF is PFF, and I know people have a lot of opinions about that. Mason Cole in their grading system was ranked 30th in pass block grade.
What about Cody Whitehair? What he got?
I'd probably have to go to another page, but one guy that is up here that is a free agent is Andre James from Las Vegas.
Let me pull him up. He's 26. Price tag right at $4 million. Kind of high, but maybe if he's on the market, the longer, as you're a veteran guy, the longer you're on the market here, your price goes down.
He was he got I think he was undrafted 2019 guy. One thing about him is, hey, if he was a 2019 guy, that was the Gruden draft. And say what you want about Gruden, those players that play for him, high motor as hell, man.
Yeah.
High motor. So, like, man, if they want to bring him in, I'm cool with that. I'd have to go watch him play, but I'll take PFF's words for him being one of the better pass blocking centers.
But we got to be, because what we are more of a pin to pull team now with Solari. He want to get into those open zones. We more of like that now instead of power.
Yeah. That's what it seemed like this past season. But it was kind of the same thing. Like, oh, pull this guard. It's like
the craziest thing is now you would like the Connor Williams if you can get him out open in the space. You will like in this system, in the Solari system.
What was I going to say? Free agency wise, though, where would you like the Cowboys to allocate that money? Because the way I'm approaching free agency, if I'm the Cowboys, and I don't know if they're even going to approach free agency, they might just look at, let's look at this really cheap free agent that we can bring in. But if I'm them, I look to address defense, especially linebacker, and defensive tackle as well. Because again, like if I'm building this team, I'm saying it would be nice if Mozzie Smith develops. But, I'm not going to build my team under the assumption that Mozzie Smith is going to be what we thought he was going to be. We hope he gets there, but he's not put enough on tape for us to, in a year where, let's just face it, like this is a really high pressure year for that team. I don't know if I want to go into that year with a guy that we hope develops and Jonathan Hankins, who, Jonathan
you got to bring him back. You got to sign him,
Oh yeah. Jonathan Hankins is good. Like no doubt about it. But, if we can add like a Grover Stewart or DJ Reader, I feel really good about that.
Look. This is what we're going to have to do. Those are needs. Yeah. Because right now, this is my philosophy. Free agency is where you handle your needs. Draft is where you go with BPA, best player available. And right now, as of February the 28th, 2024, Mozzie is your only D tackle that's supposed to be over 330 pounds, but he's probably smaller than Osa, right?
Yeah.
Navel Gallimore, he's a free agent. I don't think I talked to someone, and I don't think that he's going to be back, nor do a birdie told me that he really wants to be back, right? So because of the connotation that he got. So right now we are razor blade thin at D tackle, and we got a guy that lost over 30 pounds or 40 pounds, etc. That's our starter right now. So we're going to have to bring in someone. And we got to have this notion, too, that for the last 2 seasons, even though Big Hank's been good for us, he got hurt down the stretch. So the third time the charm, but it may happen again. So, yeah, you're going to have to do something of that nature.
Can I bring up something that some might look at as a hot take?
Okay.
Are we sure Oso Digizua is as good as we think he is? Because like I think he's an above average to good player, but I don't think he's beyond upgrading. Like I really don't, because what's his best trait? And I think he is better against the run than people give him credit for.
Oh yeah, he's pretty solid this year. Yeah,
I really do. But. And I understand that sacks don't tell the full story, but, he didn't have a sack since that New York Jets game in week 2.
Yeah.
He had two sacks in week 1 and a sack in week 2. Other than that, he didn't register a single sack since that game. So I like him. I think he's good, but I don't think he's beyond upgrading.
Well, here's my approach with this. He's signed for this year, right? And this is a contract year for him. I foresee Osa being anywhere between a 6 or an 8 sack guy and continue to get upfield and stop the run. He made some good pivotal plays on stopping the run this year. I think that, we still need big bodies that he can play off. He's a true 3 tech. He's not like the kind of caliber of 3-tech like a Jeffrey Simmons.
Oh, no.
Christopher Jones, those guys, like we said, we've been looking for a Pacheco in the late rounds and a Pat Mahomes, but those boys,
if you give me Jeffrey Simmons, man, oh man.
Oh my gosh, hey, I will walk the papers up, and I got Osa, my guy. I will walk the papers up. If they scared to do it, I say, Osa, man, you my dog. But hey, here's the paperwork, man. You going to Tennessee, man. Hey, they got some good barbecue out there in Nashville, man. Come on, man.
Oh,
man. Hey, I said Osa with the paperwork, man. But Jeffries, I think that we probably do need a guy that can be like that 3-tech guy that can give you 1-tech and still get upfield. We thought to a degree that Navier Gallimore was going to give us that. And he disappeared after his rookie year.
Yeah, no doubt. And he had that one great bull rush against Washington when he came back. And I was like, bro, because that was his first game back and he was making some waves. I was just like, I looked back after he had that sack. I was like, yo, we added this dude. Oh, it's a wrap. And then the weeks just kept on going on. And I was like, man, I can't wait to see Neville Gallimore.
Yeah. I think, but I still like Osa, man. Hey, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if Osa somehow, crazy enough as it sounds, be on the edge, man, with this Mike Zim stuff. Oh, yeah. Man. Don't be surprised, man. Zim get busy with him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Like, he's in between. How much does he weigh? Like what, 285 around there?
Yeah, he's 290-ish. Man, he chiseled, man. The dude got 6
pack.
Oh
man. Yeah. Oh yeah. The dude's in fantastic shape. So no, I could definitely see that. Here's my thing. Like when I said that, like, my thing wasn't to, crap on Osa here. Like I think he's good, but I think he might be a tad bit overrated by the fan base in a certain perspective, to where if the Cowboys went 3 technique, if they felt really good about, let's just say, a Jerzon Newton from Illinois, if they really liked the guy and they went with him in the first round, like, I'm not looking at that and saying, how could you do that? We have Osa. I'm saying, like, all right, let's roll. Osa's on the last year of his contract. And, again, good player, but, I wouldn't be opposed to upgrading is what I'm saying when it comes to Osa.
Yeah. It's just a matter of like who, you know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things that let me see if I can pull this up, because I think my guy Vach, he talked about somebody on Twitter, and he was like, "Hey,
Dwayne Carter from Duke?
Yeah, Carter, yeah.
I haven't watched him yet, but I hear great things about that guy.
What you thinking about? Well, I know you haven't watched him, but from the outside looking in, what you think about somebody like Dwayne Carter on this team?
See, again, I haven't really watched him. So okay. I wouldn't be able to give you like a great, report about the guy, but I'm all about, again, like I'm not opposed to upgrading the position. Like I wouldn't even, I would like Byron Murphy, from Texas. I think he's a really damn good player. Like I really do.
You naming all of the, look, I don't think that, look, after this week, Murphy's gonna improve and Sweat gonna improve on their draft stocks, man. So I was just like, dang. Hey, in the words of my guy, can we put a gun under the seat somewhere on those boys? Can we do some little bag or something, you know what I'm saying?
And
right, send your people out there, man.
Man, but Byron Murphy has a great build for a 3 technique. I got him at, I think I read he's 6'1", 308 pounds. Oh yeah, we can deal with that, man. High motor,
oh, yeah.
Very high motor. I'm a sucker for those type of players, high motor players. Like I think that energy is contagious.
Right.
I again, like when it comes to defensive line, I do think they need to address that, because unfortunately, like right now, again, Mozzie hasn't put enough on tape, and all options are on the table for me. Like if they want to take Tavondre Sweat at 24, I'm not going to be mad at the pick. I'm really not.
How much you will be punching like this if you hear on draft night, the Cowboys select Michigan. Interior defensive tackle, Chris Jenkins.
I'd have this hat and I'd throw it at my wall. Like, man, come on, man. And
hey, man. Hey, I get it because, but here's my thoughts though. I like these bloodline players, man. You know, hey.
I'd call into the draft room and I'd be like,
stay off the weed.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
and then I'd follow that up with,
you stupid.
Yeah.
Seriously,
I think people think that, you know, all Michigan players are going to be like that. Junior Carson, you know, Chris Jenkins, all of those boys, man, you know.
Oh, no, not at all, man. Like, look, here's the thing. I'm an Ohio State fan through and through. Love the Buckeyes. But at the end of the day, if I don't care where the guy went to school, if he's the best player for the team, I want him on the team. I don't helmet scout. I don't do any of that. You know, let me reframe. Iowa tight ends, I will helmet scout with that.
You're a helmet scout with that.
Different. But, you know, other than that, like, I don't, you know, I don't try to get into helmet scouting. So, you know, if they take, you know, like, let's just say we fast forward a year from now, Will Johnson from Michigan is a gun under the seat guy. And he falls to the Cowboys at 24. Oh, bro, I'm going to be locked up if we take him because I'm going to go crazy because the guy's that damn good. I don't care where he goes to school. I'm like, man, maybe the best player in next year's draft. I'm throwing a ball at that point, you know. So, but Chris Jenkins,
or somehow, you know, Marvin Harrison Jr. with the 24th pick. The Cowboys select Marvin Harrison Jr. What would you do, man?
Crazy. I saw Marvin Harrison Jr. play in high school. He went to St. Joe's Prep. I'm from that area. So I saw him and Trotter, those kids play when they were in high school. I remember they were playing LaSalle. LaSalle, that's like a big rivalry over here. And McCord, the Ohio State quarterback from this year, hit Harrison Jr. right in the hands on a post, dropped it, and everybody screamed out, "Run it again, run it again." They ran it again, and he didn't drop it this time. Like I did not think that Marvin Harrison Jr. was gonna stay at Ohio State. Like I'm talking about, like when he went in, like coming from high school, he was a good high school receiver, like. I was just like, yeah, I don't know. Ohio State's got a lot of really good receivers that go through that program. I mean, we'll see. And then I don't know what the hell happened, but he like turned into a freak overnight.
Freak of nature, man.
I mean, he played basketball with my damn nephew, and the kid was like a stick. And then all of a sudden, he's like one of the most insane athletes, college football might ever see. I just didn't see that, you know. And,
so he said, "I'm not even gonna look at the combine. I'm good. I'm good."
Well, you want to know? It's funny. We talked about Awesome Richards earlier, talking about like local high schools where I'm from. Awesome Richards went to the Haverford School. My sophomore year, we played the Haverford School in basketball, so he's like a local kid. And I mean, he probably wasn't on the team. This was 11 years ago. Right. And now I feel old as hell when I say something like that. But so I mean, I'm kind of rooting for like those, you know, local kids that I kind of saw coming up through the ranks.
Yes, indeed, man. So you guys Ohio don't have a big draft class coming out this year, huh?
No, they don't. They're going to be really, really damn good next year. They got a lot of guys returning to the program guys going to the program from the transfer portal.
Man, hello, man. It was a great show, man. We rocked it today, bro.
Hey, man, this ain't gonna be the last time we do this, my guy.
Nah, man. I do like your flow, man. And hey, people that's watching for the first time, man, check out Cowboys Beat, man. I think that you have a phenomenal page, man, channel. I've been checking you out, man, and everything looks great over there, especially on the TikTok and the Instagram. And I know you're going to do some specialized cutting up of this, man. And I can't wait to see the end results to everything, bro.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no doubt about it. Law, it was really a pleasure speaking with you. You know, I was watching you before I even started content. You know what I'm saying? That's how long I've been watching you, man. You know, so definitely one of the legends in the space. You know, if there was a Mount Rushmore, it's got to be you. It's got to be Shango.
Oh, yeah,
Shango's got to be up there somewhere. I'm gonna get him on one of these days. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get him on.
I'm gonna clip this and I'm gonna send it to him. Go ahead.
Man, Shango's that dude. And then I would probably say probably Vach, and then whoever your favorite guy is outside of those three. Those to me are like the legends in the space.
Man, Vach, my guy, like I said, man, from the same hometown, a small town of population of 25,000. And just like you were saying, 11 years ago, you didn't know that. Like me and Vach is 11 years apart. I'm saying like, who, Vach, who? Then I looked up, he's from Mississippi. What part? Natchez? Come on, that's my hometown, But shout out to him. I think he don't do a good job. Y'all tell Vach he don't do a good job, y'all. He does a great job, man. And Shango, if it wasn't for Shango, man, I wouldn't even be in this space as well. So I call Shango the Godfather, man. He's the guy, even to this day. Hey, go listen to his rant at the end of the season. Oh my goodness, man. Oh my goodness. It was a pleasure to my ears, man.
You know what cracked me up, bro? What he was like, all calm.
Yeah.
Cool. And then he was talking about, he was like, do we need a new quarterback?
Yeah.
Duh. We need prime Aaron Rodgers.
You sound just like him on that one, yeah.
Well, because I drive for UPS, right? And I was listening to that while I was delivering this package, signature required, and I'm getting a signature from somebody, and I hear, do we need a new quarterback? Duh, we need prime Aaron Rodgers. And dude, I literally had to look away, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I just heard one of the funniest things I've heard.
Man, he
busting out laughing.
Prime Aaron Rodgers. and then he trips me out when he does all of that, and then he gets calm at the end, like,
And what I love is this is what he started his video with.
Yeah.
I'm getting over the flu here. He had some sort of sickness. I'm feeling better. And then he gets into he's like, I'm not going to go too hard today. And then his voice gets loud, bro. Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh, man.
The legendary, the great one was at the Seahawks game. That was legendary. That was a legendary rant. And then the San Fran game in 22.
Yeah. I thought you were going to talk about the time he got mad at Dez, and he said, we go send you to the Browns, Yeah. But,
I didn't see that. I got to see that
man,
one.
I'm talking about way back in the days, man, when Dez was still on this team, way back in the day. I'm thinking like 2012 or 13 or something like that. And then his epic rant was so big that Kendrick Lamar sampled.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that.
Yeah.
What song was that?
Man, I don't even know, man. But he hit me up and said, hey, man, listen to this, Law. And then I said, okay. I said, wait a minute, that Kendrick Lamar, And he's like, hell yeah. He hit me up. And I said, man, you super and big time, bro.
Oh, bro, I still can't get over that prime Aaron Rodgers thing. Like I sent it to my friends that were Eagles fans, and they've told me like, man, I've watched that thing like 20, 30 times over because it's so funny.
Man, he's the GOAT of this, man, and he's very humbled in his ways of moving around in this space because pretty much, man, he can do just about anything he want on YouTube, really, and we all would be looking up like, yeah, man, we wish we could be in the same room as him. But I call him the Godfather for the reason, man. But I appreciate you, man. It was a pleasure, bro.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. It was a pleasure working with you as well.
Let's go, man.
Awesome. All right, guys. I appreciate you for coming out, and we'll see you guys next time.
Salute.